Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you for coming on this cold, brisk day to commemorate the raising of the first flag of the United Colonies. I'm Bob McWaters, the Ward 3 Alderman. I'd like to introduce some of my other colleagues. President William White, Alderman at Large John Conley, Alderman Ward 5 Mark Niedergang, and Alderman Ward 2 Mary Ann Houston.
We are gathered here under the hand of the Lord. The arm of cruel oppression is stretched out against New England, and especially this colony. And yet this day is sacred to liberty. Liberty granted to us by the Lord Almighty. Thanks be to God that He has given us as men natural rights. With these natural rights, we may form ourselves into a civil society and so provide for our common safety and advantage. The King George has recently told us that our love of liberty precludes our love for him. The King and his ministers will not have us speak of liberty. We must fix our eyes on the supreme government of the eternal King, who directs all events. This is the first flying of our flag, a new flag for America, an America soon to be bathed in liberty and free from tyranny. May the Lord hear us on this day of display. May He defend us and send us from His sanctuary and give us strength as we set up our banner. As is in Deuteronomy 24, for the Lord your God is He that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. Amen. Amen.
Now I'd like to introduce the mayor of this great city, Mayor Joseph Curtatone.
Happy New Year. It's great to be here with all of you on this solemn piece of historic land which helped give birth to a nation right here in Massachusetts, right here in Somerville, right here on Prospect Hill. The 239th anniversary of the raising of the first flag of the United Colonies. Not many people know that. They're beginning to learn that more and more. This is where it all happened, folks. Here, men and women sacrifice blood, sweat, tears, body, life to give birth to our great nation. And over the past 200 plus years, this nation has grown as a beacon and a pillar of democracy, of liberty, and of freedom, carrying the virtues of those peasants and farmers and regular folks who gathered just to stand against tyranny and inequity. I think Somerville as a community carries those principles, values, and virtues on its sleeve. And I want to thank you for that. Myself, the members of the Board of Aldermen, want to thank every member, resident, advocate, activist in this community who stepped up to make us the great city that we are. And we're celebrating a new year. And we have many great opportunities and challenges ahead as a community, as a state, as a nation. And we've overcome and persevered so much because of the hard work of the people of this community. As elected officials, we thank you for that sacrifice. Born on the spirit of sacrifice of the people who stood, slept, watched guard from this hill all the way to Boston. From here to Boston, during the siege of Boston, there was nothing but meadows and marsh. The Continental Army, by name, stood on heights of Cobble Hill and Prospect Hill, Dorchester Heights and Cambridge Commons, watched, guarded, with stringent and scrutinized focus against any attempt to invade and take over the towns and neighborhoods of this colony. And it was on January 1st, almost 240 years ago, they raised a flag and said, "We are united as a people. We are united as colonies." And it started right here. And we, as a community, as a Commonwealth, have led with that passion born onto us, given to us by those men and women, and will continue to do so over the next year, decades, and centuries, in the hopes that other people who follow us in this community, in this Commonwealth, carry on that tradition. So I want to thank you all personally, as someone who grew up on this hill. And my mother's here, and we immigrated to this neighborhood. She did, with my dad. And you know, many years ago, there wasn't a lot of people up here celebrating this moment. It's grown over the years. There's some people I want to recognize who aren't with us any longer today. People like Miss Isabel Cheney, a local teacher and historian, who would meet with a handful of us here on this date on much colder days and recite the readings you'll hear today, talk about the history of the Grand Union flag. Fred Lund, former neighbor of Prospect Hill, passed away a few years ago. I'm honored to wear his cloak and hope that future leaders will wear it as well. He lived at the corner of Walnut, so I call it Boston Street and Walnut Street. It was the longest serving city employee in our city's history, a veteran and a devout historian and patriot for this country. People like him and Isabel and others who volunteered kept the spirit of the Grand Union flag, the history of Somerville and the birth of the nation alive. The former Ward 3 Alderman, Tom Taylor. I don't know if Tom's here. He might be. Let's give Tom a round of applause. He was so instrumental in making sure that we worked as a community to preserve this site. And the members of the Historic Commission, like Brandon Wilson, Christy Chase, and so many, many more, who volunteered their time, that we do not forget who we are, that we do not lose our soul as we grow as a community. That's why this community passed by the second highest margin ever in state's history, the Community Preservation Act, folks. And that's why we will be restoring and renovating this great monument, this tower. So in future years, yes, you will be climbing to the top again. Yes, it will happen. This park will be completely renovated because this community stood up and said, who we are, those who gave sacrifice for who we are, the spirit and origins of our community are important. And we thank you for that. We thank you all for your service. Thank you all for your work. Thank you all for the great accomplishments we've achieved as a community in the past year. And we look forward to celebrating with you all a healthy, happy, prosperous, peaceful new year for the city, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world. God bless you all. Thank you for coming today.
And now we'll have a historical context by Brandon Wilson.
Good morning, all. Allow me to welcome you all here today, as well as applaud you for coming out on a day like today when it is a holiday for many and it is a bit cold. We will keep the program as short as possible, but again, it warms my heart to see this many people come out. As the mayor has said, this event has grown enormously over the last 10, 15 years or so, and it's just wonderful to see all of you here today. The sun shining down on us so we can witness this historic event. You will soon find out this is more of a historic event than you know. The flag today will be raised in a very novel way, not quite authentically, but it will be raised. So you will be able to witness this today. And I thank you all for being here. Today, in order to, again, set into context the occasion that we are celebrating and the mayor has so elaborately embellished for us, we've invited some people to be here that were here from the very beginning. And the first guest that I would like to introduce is the Charlestown Militia, who today will be represented by Thomas Coote. He is the captain of the Charlestown Militia, and he will come up to the stage and tell you a little bit more about this historic day.
Good morning, one and all. On behalf of the Charlestown Militia Company of Colonel Thomas Gardner's regiment, I bring you both holiday and fraternal greetings. We celebrate this annual event not just to commemorate the raising of this country's first flag, the Grand Union, but to celebrate the events that led up to this momentous day. In April of 1775, a British expedition was set out to confiscate military stores of arms and ammunition in Lexington and Concord. An alarm was sounded that brought close to 20,000 militiamen to the vicinity of Cambridge Common. On June 14th of 1775, General Artemus Ward, General Israel Putnam, Colonel John Stark, and Colonel William Prescott met in a war council on Cambridge Common. The outcome of that meeting was to fortify with 1,200 men the top of Bunker Hill. Colonel Prescott was to lead that expedition on June 16th of 1775. Upon their arrival, Colonel Prescott, realizing that the fortifications to be built on Bunker Hill posed little threat to the British occupation of Boston, so he instead took his men to a nearby Breed's Hill for their fortification. Back in Cambridge, General Artemus Ward feared that there would be an attempt not just straight ahead, but through the Lechmere Point in Cambridge. At this point, he took Colonel Thomas Gardner and his men and had them stationed at Lechmere Point. As the battle continued, Colonel Gardner realized that the fight was not there at Lechmere, but a straight-on attempt. The redoubt was under attack. He asked permission to go with his men, 10 companies of men in his regiment, to go to the fiercest of fighting. When he arrived on Bunker Hill, he met General Putnam, who took 2 of his companies and immediately sent him down to where the fiercest of fighting was, along the rail fence. Colonel Gardner and his men stood there and covered the retreat of all the militiamen as they continued up to Bunker Hill on that third and final attempt. Gardner's regiment was there that day, and after the battle, the men moved to this position on top of Prospect Hill, where they had an entire view of the city of Boston and of Charlestown and the surrounding communities. It was here that the flag was raised. Gardner's men were there that day as they are here today. In the summer of 1775, General George Washington took command of this fledgling Continental Army. He realized soon on that there was need for a flag, some flag that they would need to rally under. He commissioned Congress to create such a flag that had 13 red and white alternating stripes to represent the 13 colonies. And in the canton was the Union Jack, because we still had our allegiance to Great Britain. On January 1st, 1776, that Grand Union flag was raised here on Prospect Hill, under the guardful and watchful eye of Gardner's regiment. We are happy and proud today to continue that tradition, to be here as that flag is raised. The flag of the Grand Union is one of the flags that we are honored to carry within our unit. Thank you. Happy Grand Union Day.
Thank you, Captain. Just so that you all know, he is here representing, as I said, the Charlestown Militia, and they are all here for you to admire as well as participate and talk with afterward if you like. They're each representing different members of the company that would have been here that day. And again, we thank you for all coming out here today on a cold holiday to be here with us. I also want to recognize while I'm standing here that this is the cape that Isabel Cheney, that the mayor mentioned, would have been wearing, and I'm wearing it in her honor today because she was very much responsible for this event being celebrated in the city. And I also want to recognize some of the people that are out there in the audience that are also dressed in historic clothing, as we would like to call it, colonial, and would love to talk to you about what they're wearing and why they're wearing it as well. And also I'd like to recognize the chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission, who is here today, Dick Bauer, out there someplace. I am the director for the commission and representing them today. Okay, so as part of the program, I'd now like to introduce the next guest, which is someone that no program here would be complete without. I want you all to behave, but we are now going to invite the British to come and tell us their side of the story.
Take care! Halt! Outward, face! 2 paces, quick, march! Take care, halt! To the right, face! Fix your bayonet!
I love you too.
Shoulder, firelock! Advance your firelock!
My greetings to Mr. Washington. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak and to provide an opposing viewpoint. You, sir, I am distressed to see you here in support of these mad Massachusetts people. Why you, a good and loyal Virginian, a planter from the South, should be here supporting these people, it's simply beyond me.
Yes, my good Colonel. I can recall you from was that Braddock's campaign in Virginia? Was
Yes,
it not, sir?
we fought together.
Yes, we did. And at that time, we were fighting in a common cause. But I feel we are fighting in a more common cause for the people of these colonies now, sir. Something that His Majesty's government has ignored for far too long.
Well, I can assure you the ignorance will not continue.
I
You
do
now have
believe
our
we are in
attention,
agreement
sir.
on that part, sir.
Yes. But your rebellion here, it is based in avarice. Sir, you soon, I'm sure, rather than simply defending your rights, as you like to prattle on about them, will be sending expeditions. In fact, I believe there's one already on its way up to the French in Quebec and out into the West. If this is purely a defensive war on your part, then why do you attempt to establish empire, sir?
Oh, empire, sir. Now that is the kettle calling the pot black, don't you think? Well, I don't know about that. All I can say, sir, is that we are here to defend our country. And by our country, I don't mean the country of Massachusetts, the country of Connecticut, the country of Virginia. I mean these united colonies as a singular country here in North America. That is what we are about, sir. And we are about stopping the hegemony of Great Britain, our parent no less, but an errant parent at that. And sometimes the child must take the parent into arrears if the parent oversteps their bounds.
And sometimes the parent must scold the child.
Indeed. Well, we are children no longer, sir, but full grown on our own, and you best respect that, as we have shown you and will show you again, sir.
Well, I bring with me, sir, a transcript of His Majesty's speech, most recently given this last October.
Speaking of parents, oh yes, please go on.
He is still your sovereign.
Firelock!
For the moment.
Yes. Oh, well, that is treasonous. Take that name down, would you please?
W-A-S-H-I. Shall we go on?
Yes, we know who you are. Yes. Now, simply to disabuse you, you look to His Majesty for his lenity in the face of this rebellion, and I wish to bring to you his very own thoughts, that of his government, and more importantly, that of His Majesty himself. These are, yes, excerpts from His Majesty's most glorious speech to the Houses of Parliament on October 27th of 1775. My lords and gentlemen, those who have successfully labored to inflame my people in America by gross misrepresentations and to infuse in their minds a system of opinions repugnant to the true constitution of the colonies,
and to their subordinate relation to Great Britain, now openly avow their revolt, hostility, and rebellion. They have raised troops. They are collecting a naval force, and they have seized the public revenue, which I suspect had a lot to do with it.
Parliament does that regularly, sir.
Yes. Many of these unhappy people may still retain their loyalty, yet the torrent of violence has been strong enough to compel their acquiescence till a sufficient force shall appear to support them. The authors and the promoters of this desperate conspiracy have meant only to amuse by vague expressions of attachment to the parent state, protestations of loyalty to me, all whilst preparing for a general revolt. On our part, the resolutions of Parliament have breathed a spirit of moderation and tolerance. I have acted with the same temper, anxious to prevent the effusion of blood of my subjects and the calamities which are inseparable from a state of war, still hoping that my people in America will discern the traitorous views of their leaders. To be a subject of Great Britain, with all of its consequences, is to be the freest member of any society in the known world. This rebellious war is now levied and has become more general, and is manifestly carried on for the purpose of establishing an independent empire. I need not dwell upon the fatal effects of such a plan. The object is too important, the spirit of the British nation too high, the resources which God hath blessed her too numerous to give up so many colonies, which she has planted with great industry, nursed with great tenderness, encouraged with many commercial advantages, and protected and defended at much expense of blood and treasure. And I might bring to your attention these grenadiers who fought on your behalf to rid you of the French threat from the north, sir. When the unhappy and deluded multitude has become sensible of their error, I shall be ready to receive the misled with tenderness and mercy. To remove as soon as possible the calamities which they suffer, I shall give authority to grant general and particular pardons and indemnities, and to receive the submission of any province or colony which shall be disposed to return to its allegiance as if such province or colony had never been in revolt. George Rex, King and your sovereign. Thank you.
Long live the king!
I ask you a question, Colonel.
Certainly.
By what right, what allows King George to actually make the rules?
You are his subjects. It is long British tradition. You call this a revolt in defense of the rights of Englishmen. You remain Englishmen.
However, some Englishmen are more equal than others, are they not? We Englishmen in the colonies have been given much fewer rights than those Englishmen back home.
I beg to differ, sir. You are amongst the freest and most wealthy people on the face of the earth. You simply want to take it all for yourself.
Indeed, sir. I always rather thought that was Parliament's idea.
Parliament simply wants its cut, doesn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, that's
in
your
this
story
British
now.
mercantile system, sir, we are forced to be raw material providers, while the profits of our raw materials and our industry and labor get sent back to England, where the factories will make goods that are sold only to us at higher prices. We are not allowed free trade here. We are the most entrepreneurial people to come from Great Britain, and yet we are the least free to practice that entrepreneurism. And why? Because the boys in Parliament own the factories and they make the laws.
So you want low taxes? Let's throw it open. How are the taxes doing? Everyone happy? Everyone getting along? How's your little republic? Yes. Well, we'll see how it goes, sir.
Well, sir, I do wish to ask, but again, I've asked by what authority King George actually rules. You see, we don't have a king here anymore. We have a Continental Congress of members who are duly elected by the people. The rights to govern should come not by some accident of birth, but from the people, by a people's mandate. You, sir, how did you come about your commission, sir?
By authority, sir.
Yes, and how many thousands of British pounds did you pay for your colonelcy?
Well, quite a few.
Indeed, quite
I'm not going to be lectured on liberty by a plantation owner from Virginia.
Well, sir, my commission comes from the authority of the people through the Continental Congress. And as a result, authority to rule is derived from the people, not by an accident of birth. You have to understand, sir, kings are becoming very outdated. Just relying on tradition, that's the way we've always done it, kings are becoming quite outdated. I suspect you're going to see in the coming decades that fewer and fewer monarchies will be viable, and more the shift of power will go from an accident of birth to a deliberate act of election.
Well, then we will see what God has in store for us through force of arms, sir.
Indeed,
good luck
sir.
to you. All right.
Good luck to you, sir. I respect your service under General Braddock, but we, from this point forward, sir, are on opposite sides. Good day to you.
Good day to you too, sir. And thank you all. Thank you.
Inward, face! Front, quick. Waiting for him. March! To the left. Turn.
Allow me to remind you both that the dispute has been settled. we will now, therefore, move on, and these fellows may continue their discussion at the Mount Vernon restaurant thereafter, and you may all join us. So I would now like to continue with the program, and I would like to introduce another very key group that was part of this occasion as well, and that's the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company of Massachusetts. They are here today, and I would like to introduce first the Captain Commanding, which is Gerald McCarthy of the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company. This Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company was actually headquartered at Faneuil Hall in Boston. It was originally chartered by the Governor John Winthrop in 1638, and their goal was to train leaders for the Massachusetts militia. The members have served proudly to date in the armed forces of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the United States of America. And today, to give us another perspective, equally enjoyable, I assume, will be the Colonel Lawrence A. Wilworth, who is the AHAC of the AHAC quartermaster as well. And I must also acknowledge that he has been instrumental in helping me put together this program today. Colonel Lawrence, please come forward.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I'm a Somerville resident, a combat veteran, and retired from the United States Army. And I think it's absolutely appropriate that I say, as we assembled here today to commemorate our history and heritage, let us not forget the continuous hardships and cold weather conditions that these brave soldiers must have faced. More importantly, let us not forget the brave men and women that today, out in harm's way to protect our freedoms in similar worse conditions without the benefit of a home, hot meal, or a warm bed to go to. I think that this dedication be dedicated to all the men and women who have served, but the ones that are serving in your behalf today. I bring a few comments about what I think and what we cherish this all means. In December 1775, the siege of Boston had gone on for 8 long months. Any clear outcome with the British was not in sight. Reconciliation with the king to date had been unsuccessful. It was now winter. The soldiers' morale was low. They had not been paid. They wanted to go home, and their enlistments ended December 31st, 1775. How would the new Continental Army survive? How would it be possible to create a new organization in January 1st, 1776, facing a British army of over 8,000 soldiers? A new national flag, the Great Union, requested by General George Washington, has arrived. He presented it to his staff on Monday, January 1st, 1776. Concurrently, the General William Howe, commander of British forces in Boston, directed copies of the King's speech you just heard extracts from to Parliament, declaring the colonies in revolt, to be distributed directly to the American soldiers through the siege lines. In direct response, General Washington directed that this speech, the King's speech, be publicly burned, and that a new national flag be flown from the highest visible point in the American fortifications, Prospect Hill, where you are today. This visible display confirmed American determination to maintain their identity and the successful reorganization of the Continental Army. By January 1776, the pessimism of a month before had changed into a firm resolve. The colonists, formerly angry British citizens, had been transformed into independent Americans. The Great Union flag, now known as the Grand Union, our new national symbol, waved proudly from Prospect Hill. The Continental Army was successfully reorganized from a militia army to a professional army. Most of the soldiers re-enlisted in the Army and decided to stay the course for 8 long years in the Revolutionary War. Later in January 1776, in severe winter conditions and hardships, under the leadership of Colonel Henry Knox, 59 cannon and 60 tons of military supplies previously captured at Fort Ticonderoga, New York, were dragged by sled 150 miles to Boston. The resulting sudden emplacement of these guns on Dorchester Heights in March 1776 forced a premature British evacuation of Boston. This victory, the first major military victory of the American Revolution, combined with the publication of Thomas Paine's Common Sense, made each citizen realize that independence was a possibility. The Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company has a proud tradition of training Massachusetts military leaders and supporting the community since 1638. We are here today to honor its fellow members who were present in the Continental Army during the Siege of Boston and during the American Revolution. In particular, we honor General William Heath, one of our own, Washington's brigade commander, 92nd Captain Commanding of the Ancient and Honorable Artillery Company in 1771, and present at the raising of the first United Colony flags, soon to be referenced the American flag. Thank you very much. God bless America.
Thank you for that rousing rendition. Now all of you don't feel so cold knowing the struggles and suffering that your other compatriots who had during that time, I'm sure. But just to make sure that you do have the opportunity to warm yourselves a bit, we're going to have a rousing rendition of Yankee Doodle led by Sarah Rodwell, a Somerville resident. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Hello and Happy New Year. I am a St. Louis transplant to the Somerville area, and I love it here. I love this community, and I appreciate this is my second year participating in this, and I'm going to need your guys' help to get this next one going. So if you have your words and you're welcome to join me. So we're going to we're going to start with a little bit of left right action. So as we start, so right, left, right, left, right, left. Yes, I'm gonna need you guys to move on this one. We're trying to get some blood flowing, okay? Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooding, and there we see the men and boys as thick as hasty pudding. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. And there we see 1,000 men as rich as Squire David, and what they wasted every day, I wish it had been saved. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. And there we see a swamping gun, large as a log of maple, upon a deuced little cart, a load for father's cattle. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Find the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Come on! Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. And there was Captain Washington and gentle folks about him. They say he's grown so tarnal proud he will not ride without them. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Woohoo! Hopefully that it warmed you up a little bit.
I'd like to introduce my colleague from Ward 6, Rebecca Gewurtz, and also her infant child, Nina. Welcome to Prospect Hill, Rebecca.
You never can start history too young. Okay, so now that you're all warmed up, we're going to enjoy the benefit of a poem to put it a little bit in context that was written about on Prospect Hill and the flag unfurling. It will be given and presented by Daniel Strauss, who is a sophomore at Somerville High School, and we're very proud to have him here today to give us the poem. He's probably going to abbreviate it a little bit because of the weather, but you can all read along the poem as well. It's in your program, and I hope you will. It was written by somebody that was very prominent in the city of Somerville, and someone that actually, which the park of Foss Park was named after. Thank you.
Hey, Daniel. Now, just to add to the abbreviation thing, I have had to cut out a few of the stanzas, and unfortunately, General Washington, that means you are omitted from this poem. Full many men must meet and mix to form a nation. On this height, on that first day of 76, a nation rose in sight. And on this height stood men the peers of God's strong souls of all the years. But see, there floats an unknown flag, a flag unseen, unknown before. Let England's might tear down the rag that dares to flaunt upon this shore. I snatch the insolent shred away. 'Tis but the banner of a day. I know, by many breezes fanned, that flag shall float o'er field and town, and strong, strong must be the hand that tears that lifted banner down. Old thrones shall reel, old realms shall die, but still that flag shall wave on high. But who are these plain ploughmen here, these wielders of the axe and spade, in awkward regimental gear drawn up in loose parade? Why, these are empire builders, man, the greatest since the world began. And here today breaks on this height the sunburst of a nation's morn. That unknown banner greets the light that sees an empire born. And these wide ranks that round us stand are fathers of a mighty land. They flung their banner to the wind, they flung it in the face of foes, and thus they published to mankind that human nature grows, and that a youngling state had grown too big for insults from a throne. That flag now floats from many a height, and waves its word from crag to crag, beyond the day, across the night, the sunrise and the sunset flag. That flag is flown by every breeze across the world and all its seas. And as it waves from slope to slope, from sea to sea, or far or near, ah, may it never shame the hope of those strong men who placed it here. But be, on sea or shore unfurled, the banner of the hope of the world.
Thank you, Daniel. That was very well done. And again, Sam Walter Foss was the author of that poem. And again, he is a very notable figure in Somerville. Foss Park is named after he. Now I would like to give you a little bit of context about the history of the flag that we are all celebrating here today. And we've invited Linda Gritz, who is a longtime Somerville resident, has been here before and always does a wonderful job of putting this all in perspective. Linda, if you come up, please.
Good morning. An unarmed African-American man is killed by local authorities, and protests spring up around the country. Ferguson, Missouri, 2014? Yes, but also countless other times, including Boston, Massachusetts, 1770, in one of the pivotal events that led to George Washington raising the first colonial flag right here on Prospect Hill on January 1st, 1776. Tensions had been running high for at least 10 years before 1776, starting with a series of onerous taxes that were imposed on the colonies by the British Parliament, which had no colonial representation. After vocal and hostile demonstrations and boycotts, British troops were sent to Boston in 1768 to enforce the tax laws. According to historian John Fiske, the soldiers did many things that greatly annoyed the people. They led brawling, riotous lives, and made the quiet streets hideous by night with their drunken shouts. On Sundays, the soldiers would race horses on the common, or would play Yankee Doodle just outside the church doors during services. The soldiers were also known to fire their muskets openly in public streets and wounded civilians with their bayonets. On March 5th, 1770, tensions came to a head. There are varying accounts of the event that became known as the Boston Massacre. One version starts with a young barber's apprentice yelling at a British soldier for not paying for a wig. Another version relates that a group of about 30 men, possibly led by Crispus Attucks, an African-American sailor and rope maker, began taunting a British guard with snowballs, sticks, and insults. 7 other British soldiers came to defend the guard, and Attucks was the first of 5 men killed when the soldiers opened fire. The victims of the Boston Massacre became instant martyrs and symbols of liberty. Thousands of Bostonians joined the funeral procession, and Crispus Attucks was buried as a hero in the old granary burial ground, despite discriminatory racial restrictions in effect in those days. 100 years later, the Crispus Attucks Monument was unveiled on Boston Common with great ceremony, with the reading of a poem by John Boyle O'Reilly that includes the words, "And to honor Crispus Attucks, who was the leader and voice that day, the first to defy and the first to die, with Maverick, Carr, and Gray. Call it riot or revolution, or mob or crowd as you may. Such deaths have been the seeds of nations, such lives shall be honored for aye." The Boston Massacre galvanized colonial opposition and protest. The silversmith Paul Revere issued a commemorative engraving of the massacre to highlight British tyranny and stir up anti-British sentiment. 5 years later, on the 18th of April in 1775, Paul Revere rode his horse just a few blocks from here to warn the countryside that the British were marching from Boston. The battles at Lexington and Concord on the next day signaled the start of the American Revolution. The Battle of Bunker Hill took place two months later in Charlestown. Some sources indicate that up to 1/3 of the colonial fighters were African American. 2 African Americans, Peter Salem and Salem Poor, were cited for particular valor in that battle. Peter Salem is credited with bringing down Major Pitcairn, who led the British charge against the American fortifications. Salem Poor was given a special citation that indicated his brave acts were too numerous to mention. The British forced the Americans to retreat, and so technically the British won the Battle of Bunker Hill, but they suffered much heavier losses than the Americans. The Americans then retreated to this hill, Prospect Hill. The Continental Army was reorganized and placed under the command of George Washington. On New Year's Day, 1776, Washington ordered a flag hoisted on Prospect Hill. This flag, the Grand Union flag, had 13 alternating red and white stripes to symbolize the uniqueness as well as the unity of the 13 American colonies. The upper left corner of this flag contained the British flag, the Union Jack, which at that time consisted of the Red Cross of St. George of England and the White Cross of St. Andrew of Scotland. The Grand Union flag flying on Prospect Hill was a great morale booster for troops during the siege of Boston, which lasted until March 17, 1776, when the British were finally driven out. The Grand Union flag remained an unofficial national flag until the Continental Congress authorized the Stars and Stripes in June 1777. Today it may seem odd that the Grand Union flag included the British Union Jack. But remember, this was January 1776. We did not declare independence from Britain until 6 months later on the 4th of July. During the first year of the Revolutionary War, most Americans were not fighting for independence. They were fighting for respect and representation. As we commemorate this brave and historic flag raising, let us continue to fight for respect and representation for all people. And let us fight for equal treatment for all people in our streets, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our justice system. We affirm the ideals of the revolution, and we affirm today, as we did then, Black Lives Matter.
We will now have some greetings from the Continental Congress given by Major General L. Scott Rice. And I'd like to let you know that he is a senior military advisor to the Governor of Massachusetts and the commander of all Massachusetts military forces, to include the Massachusetts National Guard, the Massachusetts Air Guard, and the Massachusetts Militia. Massachusetts military forces have a proud tradition of service to the citizens of the Commonwealth since 1636. Major Rice's ancestry himself dates back to the early colonial times, to include service in the American Revolution. We are very proud to have him here today representing the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, Captain Commanding McCarthy, Colonel O'Shaughnessy, and General Washington, as a direct representative of the Massachusetts Militia, I bring greetings from the Continental Congress. Based on discussions with Ben Franklin's committee in October 1775, the Continental Congress has agreed to the formation of a new Continental Army of 26 regiments and the designation of a new symbol of national identity. I traveled personally to this event today to show support for the new Continental Army and for the raising of the first United Colonies flag, the Grand Union. This flag forevermore will symbolize the unity and purpose of the 13 United Colonies, the new Continental Army. I am pleased with the leadership and the example demonstrated by General George Washington and the resulting improvements in the Continental Army. I am therefore confident of its success in the future. I hereby present this Grand Union flag to you, General George Washington, to be displayed at the most visible point for all to see.
Commander, bring your units to attention and present arms!
Company, up, present.
Commanders, bring your units to order. Arm!
I am General George Washington, Commander of the Continental Army. Today we celebrate the formation of a new Continental Army. Our resolve to be free and independent citizens, and witness the first public raising of the first American flag. By authority of the Second Continental Congress, I hereby direct that this flag, the Continental colors approved by the Second Continental Congress, be henceforth called the Great Union Flag, and be raised at the most visible position in the American line.
Detail. Halt.
Flag, increase, carry out the orders.
Halt. Face. Forward. Halt.
Half left, face.
Units, bring your units to present. Arm!
Please present.
Post 19, render a salute for the new flag.
Forward. Forward. Right. Right. Ready. Fire. Ready. Fire. Ready. Fire. Wait. Freeze. Halt.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's hear it for the Grand Union flag, folks.
Company, right? Hey. Is that it, Larry?
You're in charge.
Okay, you have now witnessed the historic occasion of the unfurling of the flag as opposed to the raising of the flag today. The mayor has vowed that this tower will be fixed in the near term, so thank you to the mayor. And to the CPA, the Community Preservation Act that has been passed. If you'd like to make sure that this occurs, I might let you know that there's public hearings coming up to decide who gets the money. And to make sure that the tower gets it, I suggest you let your alderman know. Who is here today to witness this. This was not planned as a way to get the money, but it might work. Before we depart today, I just do want to give credit and acknowledgement to a lot of people that made this program possible today. First, I would like to thank most heartily the DPW crew that comes out each year on a holiday and has preparation for this for 2 weeks now to determine how this flag was in fact going to go up. So thank you to all of you. Marty Pantanella, Jimmy Roderick, to Stan Cody as the commissioner, and all the people there. I'd also like to thank this year a very special recognition to the fire department, who have now just... If you haven't gotten some warm refreshments and some things that have been supplied by local vendors, I urge you to go do that. And thank you again to the museum for being out here to do that, and for all the work that they do on behalf of Historic Somerville. Historic Somerville, I'd like to thank as well. The clothing is mostly provided by them that is authentic. Thank you very much for that. And then there's some local businesses, all of which are listed in the program, and I will not detail, but I want you to know that they are always very generous in contributing to this event and many others throughout the year. Thank you very much. So, and also the last and not least of all, for the program participants, which of course includes the Charlestown Militia, the AHAC group, the British, once again, and of course George Washington, the leader that he is, and his very special and gorgeous horse, Huckleberry Finn. And of course, the other ones that are always here each year for many, many decades, and that is Post-19 and all of the local veterans that are here today. Thank you very much. I hope, okay. Now we will have one last piece here, which is the Charlestown Militia will be unfurling their flag? No. Okay. 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 Thank you once again. And again, we will be going to the Mount Vernon restaurant, which I'm sure is named after this occasion, for those of you that would like to participate more deeply in this discussion between George Washington and the British. Thank you again. Happy New Year, and a very healthy one as well.
Thank you for joining us, folks. We also want to give thanks to the Allied Veterans Council, Joe Z, Chairman, and John O'Leary, Liaison for the Mayor's Office, the veterans, and all the veterans here today. Thank you to those men and women. And how about another round of applause for Brandon Wilson, Christy Chase, Dick Bauer, and the entire Historic Commission, the City of Somerville. Thank you for your fine work. God bless you all. Happy New Year.